Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here really quickly and let you know that we do have a contest announcement at the end of this video, and the contest will run through until the end of this month. So stay tuned and enjoy the review. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to discuss the Jeffree Star Thirsty palette. So if that is something you're interested in watching, then you are in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
Alright guys, so for those of you that don't know about Jeffree Star, we did kind of a breakdown on him as a personality and a YouTuber and his life and times and career and all that good stuff in the Blood Sugar palette video, which I will link somewhere up here. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about Jeffree and this beautiful piece of artwork, then feel free to go back and check out that video on the Blood Sugar palette. In this video, we're going to kind of skip over the Jeffree Star bio and get right into the palette itself. Now, there was a lot of launches happening this summer, and I really didn't expect Jeffree Star to kind of throw his hat into the ring with summer launches. So I was very shocked when he said he was coming out with a summer collection that included a palette. Typically, Jeffree will start hyping up a new product or a new palette months in advance, and this one seemed to come kind of out of nowhere fairly quickly. So let's get into the actual palette itself, and let's look at the color choices that Mr. Star decided to include in his summer palette. So let's start with the packaging on this bad boy, and this is the unicarton. So this is what the outside of the carton looks like. It's got these really cute kind of faux raindrops on the outside of it, and then of course it just has all of his information on the back. I'll give you a close-up look at what the actual carton itself looks like, but it's very similar to what the palette itself looks like, and of course it has those fake raindrops on it, and again all of his information on the back, including the ingredients for all of the shadow formulas. Now when it comes to the shadow formulas, he did say that these are formulas that are his typical staple, that he's always improving them, but the second row specifically in this palette is a brand new, never tried before formula. So I was kind of excited to get my hands on it. So let's get into looking at the palette itself. Now, of course, the Thirsty palette has been labeled vegan and cruelty-free. It has 10 blendable mattes and 5 blinding ultra metallics in a brand new formula. Now, Jeffree Star Cosmetics says that these shadows are softer than ever with minimum fallout in an array of bright shades and neutrals to mix and match for all your summer looks. So that's pretty much what it looks like. It is just a pressed pigment palette, so you will need to work with these a specific way, just like the Blood Sugar palette. It has a big, beautiful mirror. I love the wood kind of palette layout on the inside where it looks like a plank of wood that the shadows are sunk down in. Of course, all of the names are along the bottom, and again on the outside you have that faux raindrop bright yellow outside packaging. So overall, from an aesthetic perspective, I don't know really how to explain it. So I think I was a little let down with the presentation packaging wise of this particular palette. But I think the main reason for that is that this palette is following up a palette from a packaging perspective that literally was like a work of art. The Blood Sugar palette is genuinely a piece of art in your eyeshadow palette collection. The packaging on this is incredible. It's incredibly unusual. It is beautiful in the way that they look, the way that these shadows are laid out. The packaging itself is crazy with the buckles and the whole box. And even the carton for the outside is very unique. And this was very Jeffree Star, I think, and reminiscent to him and his style and the craziness and the chaos that is Jeffree Star. And I love that about the Blood Sugar palette. When I look at the Thirsty palette, it doesn't really say that to me. It doesn't really scream that this is a Jeffree Star palette. Even the Androgyny palette, which is one of my favorite palettes that Jeffree Star has ever made, because this is my favorite formula that's in this palette. These shadows are incredible. But this is like this alligator feeling, like faux leather on the outside, and it's pink. And then when you open it, you have this crazy kind of stuff around the mirror, and then you have these ginormous pans of product that are just big and obnoxious, and I absolutely adore it. And I love the aesthetic of this. I feel like this is definitely a very Jeffree Star looking palette. And so when I just think of Jeffree Star and his aesthetic, I just don't understand where this fits in. But instead of going with something that was very Jeffree Star and very chaos and his style, I think he went with something that was a little more season oriented, because this is a very summer vibe looking palette. It has like this very summer vibe on the outside with the water drops on it, and then that kind of wooden boardwalk planking on the inside. Yeah, I don't know. I think from an aesthetic perspective, I was a little let down by the way this one looked. But at the end of the day, as long as it's Jeffree Star formula, then I have no complaints, because I absolutely love his formula, especially his mattes. And I was very excited to get my hands on these 5 shades in the middle that are special, super secret, new formulated shades and how they functioned. So without further ado, let's get into the swatches. So we're going to start with the matte formula first. The first one is Parched. I love this cream matte. Then we have Taste Buds. We have Bitch. Then we have Kumquat. And then we have Stroke. And that is the first row, all mattes. And again, I love that cream matte. My favorite in the row. Then we go to the bottom row, and we first have Settle. And then we have Quench. We have Submerge. We have Splash, and then we have Drizzle. And out of this row, the pops of colors for mattes are phenomenal, but I do love Settle as a transition color. It is really, really pretty on the eye. Moving on to the special new formula, we have Divine, and then we have Filthy Rich, and then we have Luck. Next, we have my personal favorite, which is Snatched. And then, last but not least, we have Plunge. And these all look gorgeous as well. A little messy with the glitter particles, but they do look absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, we'll look at it with a flash just so that you can see what the glitter particles reflect. And the sparkle is absolutely beautiful. And then here they are close up in natural lighting. So alright guys, so those were the swatches. Now let's go ahead and get into application a little bit. I just want to talk to you guys about how they performed. I'm going to walk you through the look that I actually created on my eyes this evening with the Jeffree Star palette, and just kind of walk you guys through what application of these look like. Alright guys, so I just used that light transition color. It's called Subtle, and I used that just as my transition. It went on really nice. And then I went in with Stroke, which is the darkest of those kind of burnt orange colors, and just put that in a little higher than my actual crease. I really like the way this one blended as well. It layers very, very nicely. And the color payoff didn't really show up until after a couple of layers, but that's okay. Then we went in with Drizzle, which is the darker brown. I just put that directly in the crease. I just wanted to use that just to give a little depth, and they blended beautifully together. I love that look. You guys have probably seen me wear it a lot. And then I put Drizzle in the inner quarter of the mobile lid because I wanted to use one of these fantastic shimmers on my lid, so I darkened my inner quarter just a little bit. And then of course I went in with Snatched on the lid, and you guys, this was just dry with a brush. I have noticed that even if you wet it, if it's dry, it still has the same amazing payoff, and I really, really like this. Now, it does fly around a little bit, so glitter primer or a pigment primer is definitely recommended. And then I just swept Subtle underneath the eye, and then I swept Stroke underneath the eye, and then I tight lined with Drizzle. And put Drizzle right up against the lash line, and then just kind of puffed it all together and smoked out the lower lash line a little bit. And then we put on some liner and overall added some lashes. This is without a flash, and then this is with a flash, and I like the way that it turned out. I think it looks rather good. So first and foremost, the matte formula is very much that signature kind of Jeffree Star matte formula. I will say this about the colors. Now, it's not the formula that I think is a little less pigmented than his other palettes. I think it's the color choices that he chose. They're not exactly color choices that scream at you like the Blood Sugar palette and the Androgyny palette. There are just some neutrals in here when it comes to the mattes, and then of course you have these 3 pops of color. Now the 3 pops of color mattes are stunning and they look beautiful, and then the rest of them are neutrals. And don't get me wrong, I'm a neutrals girl. I love my neutrals and I love my mattes. I just don't think of Jeffree Star when I think of neutral mattes. However, I do love them. They are a great formula. They do perform well on the eye, and I can appreciate that. So other than this row here, everything is perfect in this palette. Now, again, one of my issues is fallout with the second row, but it also kind of just flies around everywhere. There's these very teeny tiny glitter particles in this second row, and they just kind of end up everywhere. They end up on your face. They end up in places that you don't want them. I found some in my hair. So yeah, I definitely recommend using a glitter glue or some kind of primer for pigment. I have both. I have a pigment primer and I have a glitter glue. Once you use those, it keeps everything kind of locked down and where it should be. Another thing that I thought was interesting about the new formula is that it doesn't really matter if your brush is wet or not. I tried it with an application with your brush dry, and I tried it in application with the brush wet. And once it dried down, they both look the same. Typically, a wet metallic or a wet shimmer will really just kind of pump up a little bit if you put it on wet. And even once the formula dries, it still has this kind of extra oomph to it. And one of the things I noticed about this is whether you put it on with a finger, whether you put it on with a brush, whether you put it on with a wet brush, that pigment there is still really, really strong, and it just stays strong, but it's consistent no matter what tool you use, which I like. I can appreciate the fact that I can use a brush or use my finger and not have to wet it and have it perform just as good as if it was a formula that needed to be wet. The second issue that I had is that it looked as though the second row maybe had a little bit less product in it than any of the other shadows. And I'll show you some pictures of what I'm talking about here. You can particularly see it in this photo where it looks like that middle pan is like only half full. And it really looks like that with a couple of those center formulas, that the pans somehow just didn't get full of product. And I've reached out to a couple of other people on social media, and there were similar problems with similar shades in other people's palettes. And my theory is this. The outside packaging says that there are 15 pans in this particular palette. Now, the outside packaging says that this is 15 pans that weigh 0.69 ounces each. So it looked like they wanted the same weight in each pan. And my guess is that certain formulas, especially the new formula, probably weighs a little bit more than the matte formulas do. So if you want to make sure that each pan has the same amount of weight in it, and one is heavier than another, then you're probably going to have less with the heavier product. Now, I personally don't like the look of a half-empty pan in a palette. I would have rather seen maybe smaller pans in that center row that still looked full of product and not just a half-empty pan. But regardless, the formula inside there is stunning. If we're all honest with ourselves, nobody's going to hit pan anytime soon, even on a half-filled pan. But you are asking people to pay $48 for the palette, and some people might like to have pans that are full. But when it's all said and done, it's a great palette. Aside from the glitter flying everywhere when you don't use a glitter glue or you don't use a pigment primer, that since the issue is so easily resolved with a primer, that I'm not really going to discount the formula for that. So it is incredibly beautiful when you get it on the eye. I absolutely love the way it looks. I love the way it looks outside in natural lighting. I love the way it looks under a flash. I think the sparkle is incredibly gorgeous. And of course, his mattes are flawless, and I really, really enjoy using this palette. So I would really like it if one of you guys got to enjoy using this palette. So that brings us to our next giveaway. I do want one of you guys to get your hands on the Thirsty palette, and I want one of you guys to try out the Thirsty palette. So the Thirsty palette is going to be our next giveaway. There are 3 things that you must do in order to be a part of this giveaway. Number 1, you need to comment down below how you'd like for me to get in touch with you in the case that you are the winner. Number 2, you have to like this video. And number 3, you gotta be a subscriber. So make sure that you take care of all of those things down in the comments below. Hit the subscriber bell, and don't forget to turn on notifications so that you're notified every time I upload a video. We are going to run this contest from now until next weekend. So we're gonna run it for a week. Next weekend, we'll have a live stream to announce the winner, as always. Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here really quickly and let you guys know that we're actually going to run the contest through until the end of June, all the way through until the end of this month. I just want to make sure everyone has a chance to enter. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, there will be a link in the credits, because if you like the work I do, you can support the channel, and there'll be a link in the credits that will show you how to do that. I hope everyone out there is happy and healthy, and I hope you guys enjoy this weekend. I will talk to you in my next video. Mwah.